Welcome to Advanced Nurses. We connect with nurses who inspire other nurses by sharing their experiences. And so we're able to bring that information to you.
Hi, I'm the educational consultant with Advanced Nurses at ACD for N. And today I wanted to actually just connect with you all regarding non traditional nursing routes. And I'll just do a brief little, story time. I remember when I initially went into the nursing profession, I just knew I did not want to work in the hospital. And I was kind of wondering, well, what am I going to do with all this information? And I mean, when you're in nursing school, you learn so much that you get the sense that there is more that you can do with this information than just what you see in nursing school, which is really working in the hospital. And so I was watching this YouTube video, and I'll put it in the description of this video. And it was a man who said pretty much he went into he after graduating from nursing school, he went to state prison, and that's who he's been a nurse at. And he was saying that he pretty much had an experience. And in fact, let me correct myself. I don't know if he went straight into the state prison system, but that's where he works now. But he was describing how his experience through nursing school really helped him to understand how like dynamic nursing really truly is, and that he knew like from the beginning, just like me, that he didn't want to work in a hospital. And what I find often is nurses who don't explore how dynamic nursing truly is, they wind up being stuck in places for a very long time. Nothing is wrong if you find your niche nice and early. So if that's what your story is, I don't think you're stuck. I think you found what you like. But for me, at least, I know that I did not find a home really until I branched off into HIM. Like, this is where I want to live, right? So I love the whole healthcare data. I love the technology piece of it. I love the software, like the different software systems used to help manage health data. And just, I'm just like, I guess I'm just a little bit more inclined that way. But everybody has their different gifts and talents. And it's just important to know that when you come into nursing, that you will be able to explore a lot of different options. And this is what makes nursing uniquely different than, let's say, being a provider. Like, so if you went the nurse practitioner route, or if you decide to become a PA, or if you decide to go to med school, a lot of nurses do go on to med school if they are really passionate about that role. And so what makes nursing uniquely different than other healthcare professionals is that nurses work across many different specialty areas. So you have a lot of different options, but nurses also have a lot of opportunities. Now, if you explore those opportunities or not is on you, but nurses also have a lot of opportunities to collaborate with non-clinical professionals. And therefore, that opens often the door where you can kind of be a bridge between that nursing and the clinical piece and whatever that other discipline is. So it's just something to think about if you are a nurse and you kind of trying to figure out, well, where do I really stand here? Um, if you're trying to really get a grasp of your interests and where you want to go to in the future, I would say the best way to get a grasp on that and to really understand is to really explore your gifts and your talents. This may also require you moving around a bit. Now, I'll say forewarning, if you move around too much, your resume may look a little crazy. But I think if you're able to tell a story about why you made the decisions you made, as far as moving from either one role to the next or from one company to the next, I think that most employers will appreciate the fact that you are a growing, you have a growth mindset, right? So you're growing in your role and you are curious about the different areas of healthcare. I know for me, my story is very much like that. And I like to just be a voice too and a resource for nurses who are exploring non-traditional nursing routes. I know that, I've been looking at my numbers. This is not the most popular nursing content. If I was here complaining about working in med surge or ICU, I'm sure that there many nurses would be able to relate to that. But I'm more so, I've always been a non-traditional nursing person. I never worked in a hospital. I don't have gory hospital stories to share with anybody because I knew early on I didn't want to work there. A lot of the red flags for me, this is over 13 years ago, was just the way I noticed that nurses move around the nursing, the unit, and around other nurses. And I'll say this, while I appreciated what I was seeing, I noticed that there were a lot of areas for improvement. For example, there were times where I would hear nurses complain about certain things or patients complain about certain things. And I didn't really see a lot of focus on the solutions coming from nursing. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that nurses don't have solutions at all. I'm saying there just seemed like a lot of the solutions weren't coming from the nursing line. It was coming maybe externally. So for me, I just look at it from a standpoint of, if, there were more nurses who thought about things from a solutions or a systems mindset, that there'll be a lot more nurses who are interested in going into like management roles and really thinking about things from a solutions perspective with a goal and aim to address a lot of these issues. Again, I feel like what we often have in nursing is a lot of nurses who may see problems, but they may not necessarily know how to address them or how to solve them. And a lot of this happens when we are able to think of the perspectives of our peers and also think more globally. So this is having an expansive mindset that goes beyond just a nursing perspective. So while you may be able to advocate and speak up for nurses, you still understand the perspectives of other stakeholders. So again, I just want to kind of just share, what led me here into a non-traditional nursing role and still doing very non-traditional nursing work. And interestingly enough, the areas of interest for me in health information management, they're non-traditional, but they're not uncommon for nurses to do. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm not doing anything groundbreaking. It's not like I'm making history, like of the first nurse to do this. It's just that there's not a lot of, I think, emphasis in the nursing curriculum that makes it okay for nurses to do things that are away from like the hospital and bedside. And of course, for obvious reasons, I think the profession, the curriculum has somewhat of an obligation to really place that nurse in that clinical setting because that's really where the nurse's like heartbeat is. It's really in that hospital in that clinical setting. However, I do believe that there is enough that is covered in the curriculum that if a nurse wanted to, let's say, go into HIM, spending time doing clinical work, yes, that would definitely make you more of an asset, and have more of an impact from that clinical aspect as far as um, within HIM. But I don't believe that if you decide that you don't want to work in the hospital and you go straight into HIM, or if you decide not to go in the hospital and you go straight into, let's say, informatics, for example, I don't believe that you're any less of a nurse because at the end of the day, it's your training in nursing school that's allowing you to kind of bring that knowledge into what you're doing. So I don't believe you're any less of a nurse. Now you may have less of that clinical piece to add, but I don't think you're any less of a nurse. I didn't go straight into HIM. I didn't learn about what HIM was, health information management, until about like 2018, 2019. Prior to that, I was focused more so in the case management space, which I always say this. Then I think case management is a great way to explore healthcare if you don't want to necessarily work in a hospital. With case management, and I'm talking about community based case management, you are able to look at um, areas of patient care where, again, there's a lot of blind spots because most of what our focus tends to be on is in the hospital. So if you are doing community based care, you're looking at patients where they work, live, sleep, and play, right? So you're looking at where all the other, areas of their life, and their lifestyle, where there could be improvements. And so that's really different than when you are working in a hospital where everything's around you, have all your equipment. So therefore, you kind of know how to help that person in that environment. Whereas if you are doing community-based case management, then you're looking at individuals and throughout the system, how they function in the systems that they're placed in. So that therefore you can be more of an advocate, when you're thinking about things like public policies and you're thinking about maybe injustices, as far as injustices in healthcare. You may have a different perspective because you've been able to see things from a different vantage point. So I'm just saying, I, again, just here for non-traditional nursing nurses, people who are interested in exploring what else can I do in nursing besides what's happening at the bedside and what's happening in the hospital. Are there other options? And I recently did a great interview with Analia Williams Bridges. She has a great book. We were talking about her book, Bridging the Gap Between Coding and Clinical Documentation Improvement. And even with that, if you would like to look at her book as a resource, I would definitely say, that is a great starting point if you are a nurse and you're just interested in more of that business side. So you get the clinical piece, but you're kind of more curious, well, what happens on the business side? How is the care that we provide and the provider's documentation, how does that fit into measuring the quality of care? So this is really a passion point for me because I'm very big on quality care. I'm also very big on the data piece and what happens with that information, because we are using data to make decisions. Unfortunately, some of even our complaints as nurses, after we're done making our complaints, they kind of just get filtered into data. So it's like, what does the data say? So yeah, you may have more of a qualitative analysis of what your experience is as a nurse. But when we look at it from a more quantitative standpoint, let's look at, did we collect numbers on this issue? Are we monitoring these numbers? Can we present these pain points in these areas where we could have improvement and see improvement? Can we actually talk about this from, a reporting, a data perspective? So, again, I'm really here, and I hate to keep saying this, for nurses who are exploring non-traditional nursing routes. I don't have any success stories from ICU. I don't have any success stories from Med-Surg. I just never went there. I knew early on I didn't need to go through burnout per se. And I did, interestingly enough. Case management has its own fair share, especially community-based case management has its own fair share of burnout. But I didn't go through that kind of like hospital burnouts. I don't have a traditional nursing story. And I'm okay with that. I'm happy with that. I have no resentments for going into the nursing profession. I don't regret becoming a nurse. I only regret that I was not able to explore these options prior to having years of kind of wondering what I want to do next. I wish these options to go into like clinical documentation, integrity, and other areas of HIM, and like learning about medical coding. I wish I was exposed to this when I was in nursing school. And I think a lot of nurses, again, would benefit from exploring this in nursing school and having some opportunity to learn from nurses who are currently doing it in the industry, in the field, so that nurses who, let's say if you had a bad experience your first place that you're hired, you don't think, man, I need to get out of this profession. You say, maybe I could explore doing this. And that's really what those clinical rotation experiences are supposed to be about. But they tend to rotate you kind of just in a different of the same kind of space, right? So like, yeah, you may be in Med-Surg one week, and then you're in mother baby in another week, or you're in labor and delivery another week. You could be in psych another week, but then it's just a little different of the same. But if you really want to, again, explore how dynamic nursing truly is, you're going to probably have to reach out to non clinical and non-traditional resources. And again, that could be anything from joining certain committees at your place of work. It could be getting involved in projects where you're working with non-clinical staff, or if there's a project where you can make a contribution and collaborate with other stakeholders who are non-clinical, I would definitely say those are great starting points. So we're about solutions here. I don't mind complaining. I think complaints are just like the roots of how you identify a problem. But I feel like, you have to have solutions. And I think that that's where you really truly add value, is when you have solutions.
We want to hear from you. Schedule a free consultation or send us an email at advancednurses@acd4n.com or visit our websites www.advancednurses.info or www.acd4n.com.